all the indications are we have entered a new bull market, a new secular bull market, but we are in the early innings of that bull, and the evidence that supports that is the valuation of the gold equities and the silver to gold ratio.
Today's guest is a supporting sponsor of Liberty in Finance. Welcome back to Liberty in Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest. Shawn Khunkhun is the CEO of Dolly Varden Silver. He joins us this Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. Shawn, thank you for returning to Liberty in Finance.
My pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
We've been delighted that Dolly Varden has partnered with Liberty in Finance to get the word out to our viewers and subscribers about the opportunities that are present that Dolly Varden is unlocking for potential owners of the company through stockholder. But we also know that you've been involved in this industry long enough to have a finger to the pulse of a lot that's going on. There's some major shifts happening that are starting to heat up, not only with the precious metals prices, which our viewers watch on a daily basis, but also on the mining, exploration, development, and mining companies really coming to life from the stock standpoint, which had been languishing for years. And that sometimes is leading to merger and acquisition talks. Very exciting times. Just in the last couple of weeks, there's been a flurry of press releases from Dolly Varden. One of the ones that caught my eye right away, which we're sure to talk about, is the expansion of the land and size of the resource that is potentially under exploration and definition there in your Kissel Valley project area. So could you please tell us about this recent announcement that has come out about the expansion of Dolly Varden's land area adjacent to your existing owners area?
Yeah, no, great question. And your comments about the equities, the stocks finally starting to participate. We've had gold has done so exceptionally well over the last few years, particularly the last year. I think it's up around 75%, which is, a historic move. And silver starting to catch a bit as well. And we're starting to see the gold and silver equities participate, which is really encouraging. Now, there's typically, the largest companies are the ones to first recognize gold's and silver's appreciation because they're the big producers and it affects their bottom line more than it does the smaller companies. And so while the market was turning on, I made a decision to list our shares on the NYSE American Exchange back in April. And it was, it's something that I'd wanted to do for about 2 years. And I picked that moment in time because I wanted to increase our visibility amongst the U.S. investor. And as that U.S. investor, and what's interesting is there's only 10 companies that are listed on the NYSE American that are giving investors exposure to silver. So it's a very scarce, very limited pool. So when we got our shares listed, it was just at a time where, these metals became a lot more topical to Main Street. And so we saw an appreciation. And then while we got that bump, I used our shares and I went out and I significantly expanded our land position. So we grew our prospective land position by 6.5 times in size. Okay, so it was a very, very significant expansion. But it wasn't just getting good ground. In the process, we acquired 3 past producing silver mines, one being the richest silver mine in the district. So we went through this. It was very deliberate. Like, this is something that you mentioned. I've been in the industry for some time. It's been 22 years. And so studying how different market cycles have reacted in the past when metals start to break out and different ratios, silver to gold and gold to the S&P. And so what was interesting is for what cost the company 2% dilution, we grew our past producing mines, going from 2 to 5, going from 15,000 hectares to 100,000 hectares. And we did it at a cost of 2% dilution, not parting with precious cash, but using our recently appreciated shares post NYSE American listing. And that enabled us to go to investors, and we recently announced very significant financing. It's the highest price financing the company has completed in its history, and so we're taking our treasury to $55 million. So these are all very positive. So we've been very busy the last few months, uplisting, making acquisitions, financing, and on May 15th, we started a drill program up in the Golden Triangle.
As I said, you've been a busy man. You've had a lot of activity going on. I've seen the pace of the press releases, which had, interestingly, in the last couple of quarters prior to all this flurry of activity, your press releases were educational focused in nature. I found that exceptionally valuable for myself, and I'm sure for our viewers and subscribers, that you walked through many different aspects. You came at it from many different aspects of valuation and strategy and engineering and geology and management and so on to help people understand the complexity, but also the areas of mastery, the areas of competency that are important, and the timing aspect of that as well, to building a successful company, which is what you're clearly in the process of doing. And so you mentioned just briefly in passing here, not only the land expansion, including new mines, new ownership of existing previously operating mines, but also a drill program. Can you tell us about what the goals are? Because Rick Rule, who's well known to our audience from his monthly appearances here, and by the way, folks, who we are going to be with Dolly Varden in person at the Rule Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida, this July 7th through 11th. Look in the description of this video for a link so that you can be there as well. If you can't travel, you can still attend through live stream and recordings. But Shawn, you have often responded to Rick's encouragement for companies to come forward with explaining how they're going to answer the unanswered questions that are going to move the company down the value curve and the maturity curve that's going to be rewarded by the market with increasing multiples. So what is your drill program's goals specifically at this time, and what answers are you trying to get from it?
Yeah, no, great question. It's important to refresh your audience on what Dolly Varden is, right? Dolly Varden is a company that has past producing mines, that has identified a large high-grade resource in Canada in a safe mining jurisdiction. The goals in the 2025 drill program is to, we use the term de-risk. And what that means is our resources, they're an estimate. And that estimate is given through a third party based on the drilling we've done previously. And so as we do tighter space drilling and more of it, it increases our confidence that when we go to mine these deposits, they're going to be there in terms of the tonnage and the grade that we had projected. And so as we de-risk the project, and as we calculate new resource estimates, we're also most importantly looking to continue to expand and extend these deposits and also try to make new discoveries. It's a very simple goal for Dolly Varden. We are trying to secure high-grade silver for miners. And whether we opt to be the miner or we make a decision to sell the company to a miner, that'll be determined in the future. But ultimately, if we go back, we started this process 5 years ago. The silver price was $16 an ounce. Our valuation was about $16 million. Today, the price of silver is closer to $40 an ounce, and our valuation is close to $400 million. And so as we continue to make accretive acquisitions, make discoveries, ultimately growing that mineral inventory through acquisitions and exploration, as the silver price continues to appreciate, our value of those ounces in the ground that we're identifying and growing is increasing. And so where I'd like to be at the end of this year is at a place where we've got a new mineral resource estimate. Our current estimate calls for about 150 million ounces of silver equivalent. That's half silver and half gold. So if we can increase that number at a time when the silver price is appreciating, it should be reflected in our value like it has been in previous years. And I'll just add one more point. The juniors have truly lagged the performance of the metals. If you look at 2024, the silver price was up 20%. The silver miners were only up 6%. As we've now entered this new phase of the bull market, where we're starting to see prices accelerate, and we're starting to see equities prices accelerate, I think what you'll see this year is a pretty strong move. Again, gold's up about 75% in the last year, and gold stocks are finally starting to appreciate at that same rate.
You mentioned financing as well during this discussion. And what is the goal of that additional financing that you obtained? And what is the cost to your shareholders? And why should they be behind that as a good move for the company?
Great question. So, it's really a catch-22 when you're a pre-production company, because with pre-revenue, you're needing to use capital to advance your operations, but that is typically a dilutive exercise. And, the one thing I could say that I'm really proud about at Dolly Varden is, despite it being a very difficult environment for the junior miners up until recently, over the last, 5 years since I've been running this company, we have not done a down round of financing. So from a dilution standpoint, the $150 million that we've raised in the last 5 years, they've been at higher and higher and higher share prices. And that is a very strong indication for the shareholders. Now, in terms of the use of proceeds, I would like to increase the drill program. I'd like to be more aggressive, and I'd like to start putting out economic studies around the advancement of this deposit. So that it's essentially to accelerate the development at the project site. So we are currently announced a 35,000 meter drill program. I'd like to see us increase that up to 55,000 meters.
Now, you also mentioned in passing something that's near and dear to the hearts of our viewers and subscribers, and that's the increasing silver price. This environment that you're describing of rapidly increasing your land holdings, your potential mine resources that are available there to re-enliven, and the financing to make all of that go and to expand the definition of those resources through additional drilling happens with a backdrop of a rising silver price. You are a student of the markets and the market's history as well. Can you talk to us about what you're seeing right now in the precious metals market versus supply and demand and price action, what you've seen in the past that may be prologue to what's coming next, and how that will then affect shareholders of a company like Dolly Varden?
Okay, great question. A lot to unpack there. The first thing I would say is silver has lagged gold. And that is an indication through my experience and the studying of previous market cycles that we're very, very early in this bull market. That when silver's move starts to accelerate, when silver starts drastically outperforming gold, when the silver to gold ratio is measured, 50 to 1, 40 to 1, 30 to 1, that's typically, and again, history rhymes, it doesn't always repeat. And so we may be moving into an environment because of the growing industrial use of silver, that ratio, it dropped to 28 to 1 during the last cycle. So there was a moment where silver went to $49 in April of 2011, and relative to where the gold price was, gold was only 28 times more expensive than silver in that moment. Right now, the silver to gold ratio is about 90 to 1. So we've got a long way to go. You could argue that silver could triple without gold moving higher. And but anyways, getting back to your question, typically, keeping it very, very simple, in previous bull markets, the price of gold moves forward for various reasons, whether it's systemic risk, whether it's a hedge against inflation, whether it's central banks buying. There's a whole number of reasons why investors flock to gold. And those reasons are alive and well today as we see gold at a record high in all currencies all around the globe. The gold producers become very profitable. The world's largest gold producer by market capitalization, Agnico Eagle, is today making $300 million a month free cash flow. So it's a very profitable business. And that is now trickling down. As they are depleting their mineral inventory, they're going out and trying to replenish those ounces. So there's a trickle-down effect. But the gold price moving up, the gold producers moving up, investors making money in those two asset classes, and then looking to take on more risk. And then you start to see junior producers, unfunded developers, and then in the final stage of the bull market, the exploration companies typically get a massive bid. So what I could say to the viewer who is new to the industry, who is new to markets, who is not a professional, all the indications are we have entered a new bull market, a new secular bull market, but we are in the early innings of that bull, and the evidence that supports that is the valuation of the gold equities and the silver to gold ratio.
As people watch the silver to gold ratio evolve here, as silver seems to catch a bid now later in the cycle where it was initially gold, the primary mover for some time, it's going to be an interesting time for companies like Dolly Varden who have focused on high-grade silver deposits. Can you touch, before we wrap, on what unique aspects that has, the high-grade aspect of Dolly Varden's focus in a world of other potential silver producers that people can consider becoming investors in, why they should take a hard look from that standpoint in Dolly Varden particularly?
Absolutely. So I think it's very, very important to know yourself, and the psychology around investing is so important. And the reality is the high cost producers and the low grade deposits are going to be your best performers in a bull market. As the silver price rises higher, the companies that are, in another way to look at it, the most challenged projects will be your best performers because they're either not profitable or on the margins of profitability. That is not my style of investing. I'm more conservative. And for me, the fact that we focused on a project that is in a tier 1 jurisdiction, a safe jurisdiction with the rule of law, and the fact that we focused on an exceptionally high grade deposit, this is a project in an environment where whether the silver price goes back to 16 or stays at 37, and I believe it's going to go higher. But for me, this is a project that is going to shine in almost any price environment. Full disclosure, I think if you're looking for, again, it's knowing and understanding yourself as an investor and the risks that you're looking to take on. I think what Dolly Varden offers is something that a lot of investors have celebrated in a world where we seem to be going into a more isolationist stance. Jurisdiction matters, and I think that's why a lot of investors have come and supported the company.
For people who have been watching us discuss Dolly Varden for some time, they already know how to get a hold of you, how to get a hold of the investor relation team at Dolly Varden. But for our widely expanding audience, what's the best way that they can dig a little bit deeper to get a better understanding in why Dolly Varden deserves their closer inspection?
Well, our website is a great resource, dollyvardensilver.com. It's a great resource. If you'd like to talk to us directly, all of our contact information is on the site. If you don't want to talk to us, there's a really neat function on the website. We were the first public company to include this section. We have a chat IR bot where you can ask the bot questions, and it'll instantly give you answers. So whether you want to call the phone number, send us an email, or chat directly with the IR bot, all the information's there. There's videos, there's news releases, there's images. And we'd love to hear from you. So please reach out. And then we're very active on all the social media platforms, particularly X. And so all of our updates, our news releases, images from the field at Silver Varden.
And I just want to remind all of our viewers that Dolly Varden Silver has for some time now been one of the few hand-selected companies invited by Rick Rule himself after doing his own due diligence, which is more exhaustive than just about anyone I know, in participating both as an exhibitor and a speaker at the Rule Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida. So remember to look in the description of this video for a link on how you can register either in person or remotely. There's 100% virtual participation available as well. And find out more about not only Dolly Varden, but the other companies that Rick is focusing on in other areas in addition to silver. And perhaps even meet Shawn Khunkhun and Dunnigan Kaiser, myself. We'd be happy to shake your hand and talk to you and answer questions that we can at Boca Raton if you're able to attend in person. And we're just grateful, Shawn, the CEO of Dolly Varden Silver, for joining us again here on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you at the Rule Symposium.